Morning everybody, Silverbolt here, back for a comic-only character review. We're going to be doing, as per the title page, Scrounge, which is this little fella. Not very impressive, is he? There's a very good reason for that. He's not very impressive. Here's a special arm, which I'll get to in time. Scrounge is one of the Autobots that is left on Cybertron, and, well, he's been compared akin to Bumblebee. Well, he's small and yellow. That apparently makes him like Bumblebee. No, he's actually lower down on the scale than Bumblebee is, for the simple fact that Scrounge is actually fairly useless. He does, however, have delusions of wanting to be a great Autobot hero, and this is what sends him out to be a fairly passable spy. Because he's got a special arm. There's no other like it. However, unlike Bumblebee, who tries to report back as accurately as possible, Scrounge thinks that finding the most inane piece of anything is key to turning the whole war around. As such, most of the Autobots don't believe him. And so any information that he brings back is viewed at best with a pinch of salt. At worst, they just go, okay, where were we? Now, he has an attachment to Blaster, but even Blaster doesn't really view him as anything useful. Indeed, they view him as pretty much somebody who tags along. Doesn't really do a lot. However, Scrounge does eventually do something very important. Well, he does something that's quite important to another character. When he actually finally does turn up a lead on the missing Ark, he's actually very excited, because for once he's actually found something that is genuinely important. In an attempt to prove himself, he sneaks into Darkmount, trying to spy on the Decepticons. He very promptly gets captured. He's no master of stealth. During this point, Scrounge gets his special arm, of which there's no other one like it, torn off. And then he gets summarily thrown into a smelting pot, which is at this point that Blaster shows up, and and all he finds really is this disembodied torso, which bears a striking resemblance to C-3PO after Chewbacca has tried to put him back together in The Empire Strikes Back. Blaster is very angry at this, and he's very guilt-ridden. And the important part that Scrounge plays comes as a major blow because of something that Blaster does later on. Blaster is very guilt-ridden about Scrounge's death. Feels that he should have done more. It's probably a case of the fact that, yes, you should have done more, but it's also a case probably survivor's guilt. Because, he didn't force Scrounge to go into Darkmount. When the neutral scientist Spanner is captured by Straxus and turned into a space bridge, it is the memory of Scrounge that stops Blaster from doing what has to be done. I don't want to go too much into that, because Spanner might be another character that I'll do. Because a lot of people do revolve. A lot of characters do. The comic-only characters tend to revolve around a lot of the other major characters. Blaster being one of them, because of course Blaster in the comics, even in the old Marvel comics and in the newer IDW and Dreamwave, Blaster does feature quite heavily. So yes, Scrounge and his special arm, of which there's no other one like it. Let's see, Scrounge's special arm. Well, do they give him an uber weapon? No. Does it make him invisible? No. Does it make him correct holograms? No. Does he have Wolverine claws? No. His fingers extend. That's it. Not even all 5. 2 of them. 2 fingers extend. His special armour, which there's no other one like it, his 2 fingers extend. And it has basically audio and visual receptors on it. Congratulations. You're Soundwave, but not quite as cool. But yes, Scrounge has an alt mode. It's a wheel. Yes, he transforms into a wheel. You know, when you compare that to humongous battle fortresses and, you know, giant flying turkeys and battle tanks and more giant fortresses, the wheel's not exactly the most impressive thing going. I mean, his head doesn't even move. His head stays, you know, that weird bullet-shaped thing doesn't even do anything. It just stays in place, and he kind of, I mean, it must make him awfully dizzy. But, you know, can you imagine? His head's doing that the entire time. I mean, but yes, Scrounge later does show up again in the IDW comics, Megatron Origins, and like in the Marvel comics, Scrounge joins the Autobots. However, Scrounge is put on the list of don't use unless we absolutely have to. Because, rather like Wheelie, well, he's kind of useless. Well, Wheelie as we know him is kind of useless. Wheelie, as he's been redesigned now, is a badass. But there we go. So, you know, the only thing Scrounge would be really, really good for is something like a, I don't know, a Forlorn Hope. And for those of you who don't know what a Forlorn Hope is, it's a military tactic that's not really used anymore. It heralds back to the days when we had, you know, giant fortresses and castles, and it was, the Forlorn Hope was the one that was the armed force that was sent in after a breach had been made. Needless to say, it had an extraordinarily high casualty rating. Hence why Scrounge would be good at it, because no one cares if he dies. But yes, that's it on my review of Scrounge. You know, again, you know, he's one of those nice little characters that doesn't, well, he's not really a nice little character, he's kind of a useless character. But in his own little way, he is quite important to Blaster. So for now, this is Silverbolt with another comic-only review, signing off, saying au revoir, adios, auf Wiedersehen.